Okay.
So David already began to show signs of it. Well, then another baby was on the way, and they didn't have very good hope for her. And Mom used to just pray that she would be baptized, just live long enough to be baptized. And that's exactly what happened. She lived about an hour or two. I never met her. I went to her funeral.
And that was,
They
is it-
named her Miriam.
I was going to say that's Miriam, right? Yeah.
They named her Miriam after my dear friend.
And she was between David and Joey.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, then when Mom got pregnant with Joey, the doctor was furious with her. And he said, in today's world, this would not be allowed, but he never once checked for a heartbeat, never once checked. He treated her as if she had a disease. He never measured her tummy, nothing. He treated her like she had a disease rather than a child.
Wow.
Never once did he treat her like she was going to have a live child. And Mom said she often, on her way back from the doctor, would stop at Assumption Church and just go to Mary's altar and just plead with her. She says, "You were a mother. You know how I feel. Just take care of my baby." And when I was staying home babysit. Every year, I stay home to babysit with the kids. And this time, when she went into the hospital, the doctor went in there. They didn't have a pediatrician on hand, nothing, because they knew there was no way. And the doctor came out just astonished and stunned, and he told my dad, he said, "He's alive. What do you want me to do?" So just then, the best pediatrician that we know of in Albuquerque had come on call. So they called him into the situation. And he said, this has never happened before. He says, "I will call anybody in the country, whatever you want me to do." And my folks said, "You do the best you can, we trust you." Well, Joey ended up with 3 complete transfusions. He's written up in the American Medical Journal.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And I, I was home babysitting. I walked down our hallway, and there were my 3 little sisters, all on their knees, with their hands on the ground, and they're little, with their hands up here on their bed, praying that Jesus would let their brother live. All the kids at Assumption, we had children at Assumption, we had kids at Pius, and both schools were praying for him. And so Joey Schaub is my dear tallest, youngest brother. He is a proud, proud daddy of 2 children. He was always so good to my mother. But he is a miracle. He was deaf in one ear, and he had one eye that was crossed. And when he was 11 or 12, they had that corrected. But other than that, he's fine. He's a wonderful man. Wonderful, wonderful man. We're all so proud of him, and he's such a miracle. His birthday is the first day of spring. How appropriate. Yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, we're so proud of him. Yeah, he and Ron are 15 months apart. He used to bug me sometimes because I wanted my child to be perfect.
So what's the age difference between you and Joey?
Well, if 15
He was
months,
15 months older than Ronnie. Ronnie is
Ronnie's in
June of
61.
61.
Well, because March of 60. March of
yeah,
60.
March of 60.
No,
yeah, it would be
no,
15
no.
months.
Yes, we were married in 61, so March of 61. Ronnie is 62.
Oh, that's right. Ronnie's 62.
So he was March of 60. March of
So
60.
March of 60 would be 27 months. That'd be a little over 2 years. March of 60.
I know we were married in August of 61, and he was born, we were in 61, so he was
He
March
was
of
born in
61.
Yeah, 15 months. You said,
Yes.
yeah, 15 months.
15 months.
So so how old were you? So that would have
He's
been,
61, and so 20 years.
so yeah, you were 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
when
Oh,
he was
there's a
born.
bigger difference between Mary
Yeah,
Joy
Ronnie and Mary
Ronnie.
Joy is 21 years.
24.
21.
Is it? Well, all right.
21 years, yeah.
Yeah, so 20 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, so he was, that Ronnie and Joey were more like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, Joey would say, "Remember, I'm the uncle."
I remember that.
When he wanted to pull
Rank.
rank, yeah.
Yeah. So, so with all of this, were there, what I experienced about all your brothers and sisters and the Schaub family, as I call it now, because I wasn't aware of the Gunty family as a kid growing up and all, was there friction? Was there politics? I don't ever know
No.
that. It's
No.
always been an incredibly seamless family, and
I know.
to know that it's really almost three distinct families
We're a blended family.
is
We
is an
were-
amazing thing that
Yeah.
there's no
No, because that was,
disunion at all.
that was Dad Schaub's dream, to have one family. And then when I was in 7th grade, he adopted me, and he adopted my brothers and sisters so that we would all have the same name, because he wanted us to be one family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when we did when we divided up Mom's things on that day, I said to my brothers and sisters, "We have become the people that Mom and Dad wanted us to be.
Mhm.
We are one loving family." And we thought all families were like that, but I've learned since, no, that's not true.
Mhm.
Not even all blood brothers and sisters.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I was telling somebody that I was telling the story, and Franny said to me, "Why do you even say that? In other words, we're one family. Why do you even tell that there's a story other than that?"
Mhm.
And no, I consider in fact, when I think of my dad and losing my dad, the gift of that is that I have my brothers and sisters.
Yeah,
I am
a much bigger family.
My brothers and sisters are
Or
my dearest gifts to me.
yeah,
They're my brothers and sisters.
yeah, I understand that.
I just love them to pieces.
The tell me.
Yeah, there's
go-
never
go-
any rivalry or.
Think of each of your brothers and sisters and tell me one short story about each of them when you were a kid. Just one childhood story about each of them.
I don't know that I'll stick to that. Maybe I'll tell a story, but it won't be that.
Fair enough.
Dottie is my sister. I'll always love her. We had a lot of ups and downs as children. But once I heard she was engaged, we had everything in common. And she and I had just written a really neat letter together, and it was in the mail when I went into delivery with Mary Joy. And Mary Joy's birthday is the same as Dottie's. And that just sealed our relationship. So you talked about rivalry. Is there rivalry? I think there has been, if there's been any rivalry, for me, it's been with Dottie. But at the same time, I'm very, very close to her. She's my dear, dear sister.
Yeah, I mean, you've
We're-
talked
and we're
about
very
that
different.
relationship for so many years, and how close you are. Yeah.
For years and years, I wanted to be like my mother, and my mother would tell me I was like my grandma. And now I'm also seeing how I am very much a Gunty, and Dottie is very much like my mother. So I can see where a lot is our personality too.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't change the fact that I just love her very, very much. And Eddie, what can I say about Eddie? I just love him. He's my dad's son. When he was a little kid, he was kind of a scaredy cat, but I also remember when my dad was sick, he could see him through across the hall, and if he'd stand up and he wasn't supposed to be, he'd holler at him, So Eddie had a hard time with my dad, and But he's somehow my hero too. And right now it's very painful for me because our political views are very different, to the point that they're very divisive right now for both of us. I'm a big disappointment to him, and that hurts. I really miss him. That's a hard one. That's a real pain in my life right now. And dear sweet Johnny, he and I laugh and have such a good time together. The girls say, who would ever thought Johnny and Rita are going to be the ones that give us fits? Because we both like to be sassy and speak up. And I'm really proud of him. He's been through a lot, but he's come a long way.
He's got to be the kindest, gentlest person I've ever known in my life.
Yeah.
I adore Johnny because of his just pure acceptance of people around him. You can be whatever you want around Johnny, and he will simply accept and love you for who you are.
Yeah.
He's an amazing, amazing gift of a man, yeah.
Yeah. The big thing with him and Dad is that my dad never saw him walk. He had learned to walk, but as I said earlier, how when we visited him, we had to be out on the grass and look up.
Yeah.
And of course, when a little child learns to walk, they're comfortable on the hard ground, but
And the
not
grass
on
is
the grass.
scary, yeah.
And so he walked, but then he wouldn't walk when he got there. So, and then a few weeks later, my dad died. So my dad never saw John walk. But John lives up in on the Ute Reservation, and he plays some neat instruments, and he's had some really powerful healings with his dad too, because he really never knew his dad, and so he's come to know Ed. And I think the boys had it easier with Dad Schaub because they could go to work and they have a lot of memories, whereas the girls didn't know him, didn't get to know him too well. Mike will always be my buddy. He loves his wife Kathy so much. I mean, he might say something nice to me, and then he says, "And Kathy too." He always includes Kathy. He loves Kathy, but no matter, and they've kind of pulled away from the family a little bit. But I can call him or whatever, and I think he and I will always have that bond. I was his first girlfriend. He was my first boyfriend. You know, I love Mikey. He's a good man. Fran, what am I supposed to be doing? Is this right with my brothers and sisters? Oh, Fran, oh my goodness. She used to give my mother fits. My mother used to get so frustrated with her. I don't know why. I think she was just so, so stubborn or something. But she gave my mother a lot of fits, and she was a hard teenager for my mother, but she's got it all together now. And I remember Mom would come home after visiting her in El Paso, and she'd say, "Some people just make better adults than they do children." And she was always so proud of her, very proud of her as an adult. So, yeah, she's a neat lady. She's got a wonderfully generous heart. I love being with her. Mutzi was a cute little baby. I was coming home from California visit, and Mom and Dad met me at the bus depot, and Keith was there, and he just came to greet me. He didn't mean I was going home with my family. And Dad says, "Well, that's not proper." He makes the trip. And bottom line, I was going home from the depot with Keith, and I had Mutzi in my arms. And so she just went with. We didn't have car seats or anything. She just went with. I've got Mutzi with me. And she was just the cutest little booger. I just loved her to pieces. And I used to think it would be so neat when we grew up if we could be friends. And we are the best of friends. I just love her to pieces. pieces. We have so much fun together. Oh my gosh, our trip to Alaska, we just laughed and laughed and laughed.
Mm-hmm.
Mom used to say she could go into a Kmart and come out with a funny story. And it's true. But I can keep up with her a lot of times now, too. Yeah. I really love that friendship with Fran and Marie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that they include me in that friendship. Margie. Margie's my little missing sister. She's down in Cruces, and I don't get to see her very often, but she's a sweet little gal. Not such a little gal, but one time when she was doing a reading for little Eddie's wedding, and I thought, oh my goodness, she's mature. My little sister had grown up, she was mature. But yeah, we have a good understanding, we have a good relationship. If she lived closer, I think we would have more good times together. But we're in good contact. And Davey, I have a lot of respect for David. He's given up a lot to be with his 3 kids, to be a good dad. He is very much a good dad. He's still at the same company that he was when he started in high school. He's still at Smith's. He had many different positions. And yeah, his sacrifice and love for his kids is paying off because they're really neat kids too.
Mm-hmm.
And Joey, he's just a delight. He's just a delight. We all love to watch the relationship with him and Paula. They have such respect for each other. They're so truly kind and good to one another. And he just sparkles when he talks about his 2 girls. And oh my goodness, they're getting old. They're growing up. And it's so cute. They says, you remind me of our grandma. They don't have a grandma. So now when I sent them something for Valentine's Day and I signed it, Grandma. So it seems as the kids get older, I get to have more of a relationship with them. I find that happening with Andrew and with Brian and with Joshy, Joey's girls. Yeah, that's neat.
Last year in 2010, last summer, we had the big family reunion.
I loved it.
And that was not only your idea, but you really put that whole thing together. Why was that so important to you?
That was my dream. That was a dream. I had been thinking of that for a few years.
Yeah, for
that
a
was
while.
a very good segue, by the way. That was just a big dream. Well, it just made me so sad to think that these cousins had grown up to, you all knew each other as cousins.
I hadn't even met some of them.
No, but when you were growing up, you knew.
Oh, yeah, we knew.
You knew all the little cousins.
Yeah.
You all had good times together.
Yeah, it was a great time.
And so now, you'd all grown up. You hadn't seen each other, and you certainly hadn't met each other's spouses or met each other's
True.
children.
Mm-hmm.
And that just seemed like such a void. And so it was my dream. And I think Grandpa's dream to have us one family was so still, I guess I've inherited that. That's just still so much a part of me. Like sometimes when stuff goes on and somebody will say, well, we just don't bother with such and such. And that doesn't sit well with me because we are brothers and sisters no matter what. And so I just had to get everybody together. That was awesome.
You were telling me a second ago of you calling yourself grandma to Joey's girls. Do you see yourself as the matriarch of the family? As you organize the reunion,
Yeah.
that's kind of a position you've taken on.
I don't know that I see myself as that, but I know that's true. I don't see myself as that, but I take the responsibility of that.
Yeah.
I realize, I'm very grateful for this because every once in a while I have a question of that, and I don't have anybody to go to now
Yeah.
for that. And there's been a lot that's gone on that I don't want that to die and go into my grave
Right.
without that being shared, because there's so many blessings. In fact, I think I said this after our reunion. When my dad died, when Ed Gunty died, he lived far longer than the doctors ever thought he would. And they said he had such a will to live. But Mom told me that why he was finally able to let go is he said, okay, I'll let go, I'll give up, if you promise you'll take care of my family. And I think our family has been incredibly blessed. There have been a lot of difficult times. Grandpa had a period of drinking, and there were a lot of hard times. In each family there were hard times. But we have had incredible love and blessings and protection. And it occurred to me not too long ago, but of course, that's just God keeping his promise, and it's passed on to all of us. Because, like I said, we thought everybody was like, no, it's not so. So it's God keeping his promise, and in that, I need to pass that on. We come from good, hard-working people, and that needs to be passed on. So, yeah, I'm proud to be matriarch of our family, It's not a hard job. I'm just very aware that there's an awful lot that has happened.
Yeah,
And
I'm finding
I think it's awesome. I think each generation, like I look at my kids and my nieces and nephews, I think everybody's doing a really beautiful job with their children. At the reunion, how many of us were there? Over 90, I think.
something like that, yeah.
90. And there's not a booger in the crowd. There's not one bad kid in the whole bunch. A little booger here and there. No, seriously.
Do me a favor and turn that light on. It's starting to get dark in here.
Yeah.
I know this camera has a flash, but that helps a lot. Yeah, that helps. Makes it a little more yellow, but that's okay. All right, let me zoom in. Let me zoom in real tight on your face and have you do that again.
Oh no. Let's not be ridiculous. I'm not doing that, planning it. It just has to happen.
I understand.
Let's see, we talked about my childhood. I was a pretty happy kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to think it was so funny because I used to say, I remember even telling my mother one time when I was in high school, isn't evening the saddest time in the whole day? And she thought it was goofy. And I think it was because all those days and weeks and months that I was by myself with my sick dad in the hospital and my mom not there.
Mm-hmm.
So of course it would have been.
During the day you have something to do, and at evening there's...
My mom was home by then, but
Yeah.
But that time after school was pretty bleak.
When Mary Joy graduated from high school, I had a realization that would, let me think, that would have been in like 2004, something like that.
I don't know.
So from when you were a little bitty girl, raising your brothers and sisters in many ways, to the end of Mary Joy, you were raising kids for like 50 years.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
I don't know. I didn't.
So whatever the exact math is. And, especially with your dad with his illness and your mom being away, you in many ways were raising your brothers and sisters. You know, as the oldest daughter, that's just one of the things that was put onto your plate. Did you ever think about that or resent that or embrace that? How did you feel good about that? Was that hard for you?
No, I before Mom remarried, I don't think I was taking care of kids. Mom had those. She had other people doing it. I took care of the house, but once she got married, and then occasionally Dad and occasionally they would go out for an evening, or go shopping or something, and I would be in charge of the kids. Oh, I had to write letters of apology, ask forgiveness to my brothers, because I was mean and bossy. Oh,
Really?
I was awful, and I didn't know how bad I was. And when I did, then I wrote to each of the boys. But I remember one time,
Did you write those letters right away or years later?
a few years later,
Okay.
I remember I was being so bossy, and I shoved or punched or something with Michael, and Michael pushed me or whatever. Anyway, I realized, oh my gosh, he could beat me up in an instant. And I never did that anyway after that. But what I realized is, yeah, I was mean and bossy, but it really wasn't. The only affirmation I got was because I was organized. And so when my folks were away, I made the kids keep things cleaned up. I made them do such and such and such and such, because that's the only affirmation I got. They were so busy. And that was really too much for somebody. You know, I was just a couple of years older than they. I didn't mind it at the time, but I realized abuse happened out of that. And I find that's probably what happened with Ronnie, too. Too much was put on my shoulders and on his shoulders for that time.
Yeah, we'll get into that topic in a little while.
But I didn't mind it. I just did it. I didn't resent it. I didn't mind it. I wasn't very good at it, obviously. But then having my kids, no, I never minded it. I loved it. I loved those years. I'm so grateful. Yeah. I do remember when I was 29, I had Maria. She was number 5.
Yeah.
I was 29, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm only 29 and I've got 5 kids. It was pretty scary, not having the 5 kids, but I got a long way to go. What's going to happen here? That was scary. And then there were 4 more kids. But that's the only thing. And also I remember with Maria, that's when the whole overpopulation and birth control thing became very popular.
Yeah, and Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973. So Maria was born just before then, but all the politics of the day was all about population control
and we took
overpopulation of the world.
Oh, yeah, we heard every snide remark there was. And but that's the only time that was really a hard time, was about that time, was with that. But I loved those years. I remember, however, when I was pregnant with Stephen, I was so angry at God. I don't know why God, because it wasn't. But I was very angry for being pregnant again, because Matthew is just about to start school, and that would have been the first time in 14 years I would have not had a preschooler. And I was working out. Dottie was in town, and that's when they just came back from around. And then we were working out, and I remember I was doing a floor exercise. I was working out on the floor, and I remember the shag rug, and I let go of my anger for just a split second. And these sleek women were coming in and out of the gym, and they kind of represented the freedom. And I just let go of that anger for a split second, and I heard, the freedom you seek is a far deeper freedom, and that freedom I will give you. I walked out of there as sleek as the sleekest. And with that pregnancy, maybe more than any of the others, I was given so many compliments about how pretty I looked or how healthy or you look so alive. I just carried. I was just so. It was a very good pregnancy.
Just glowing, like Mary
Yeah.
Joy is glowing
Yes,
right now.
yes.
I mean, just so excited. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And and when I found out I was pregnant with him, we were in the house on Tennessee, and we were so crowded. I says, Keith, where are we going to put a baby? And he said he was doing macrame, beautiful
remember,
work
yeah.
with macrame, and he says, well, I'll make a macrame basket. And my response was, I'm not hanging my children from the ceiling. How rude. But no, we did not hang our children from the ceiling.
But if you had to, you would have.
Well, we used the same bassinet we'd had with all the babies before. We had it in front of our closet. If I had to get in my side, I moved it over here. If Dad had to get in his side, we moved it over there. That's how crowded we were.
I remember
But
one
there was
point.
room.
I remember one point while we were living in that house. Dad says, "I just want a place where I don't have to turn sideways to walk down the hall." And the funny thing that stuck in my head so much that now with Pam and I and some of the stuff in our house, I'm like, I understand that, Pop, and I wonder if that has anything to do with him wanting so much land and not a neighbor within 40 miles of him right now. You know, if that has anything to do with it, I don't know. Kind of a funny thing. Mm-hmm. We're kind of a good breaking point between topics.
Okay.
Historical and family tree stuff and your childhood and your brothers and sisters and growing up and all of that. And the next phase of what I wanted to talk about is just in general, you and Dad and how you met and a little bit more of that relationship and just that relationship specifically, and then we'll get into each of the kids as well. But before we move into that, while we're still in this little section here, is there anything else that you want to talk about with anything that we've talked about so far? Any kind of fun memories, even the cars that your parents drove, or a horse driving, or any weird,
Yes,
any fun or weird or unusual things.
All right. A couple of things. Grandma Kurzweil was from a pretty poor family, but Grandpa Kurzweil
And those are your grandparents,
Yes.
my great grandparents.
Yes.
Okay.
was I guess he was fairly well to do, and he courted her with a horse and a very, very fancy buggy. She was really what's that word? She was really taken with him because of his fine carriage.
In its prim and proper way.
Yes, yes. And I remember on San Lorenzo when my dad would how was he coming home from work? He didn't have a job out there. Anyway, somehow I knew when he was coming. We were like about a half a block from 4th Street, and so I don't know how or what he'd be doing, but when I knew he was coming, I would run up to 4th Street and wait, and when he'd turn the corner, he'd slow down and I'd jump on the running board, and he'd drive me on the way back. Kids don't even know what a
Very
running
cool.
board
Yeah.
is. You know, it
Yeah.
was a little ledge by the doors, and you just held on because
You could
You could.
stand on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sticks out from the door
yeah, it was
on
like
the bottom of a car.
Yeah, it was the stepping, your little step before you get from the ground up into the
Yeah.
car. But it was on the outside, so cars were slow enough. You could just. That was a big treat. We got to stand on the running board. He'd give me a ride home.
That's cool.
I've had a good life. Always been real healthy. Had my tonsils out when I was in 2nd grade. And then the nurse walks in. Just stop that, stop that. I felt something dripping down my throat, so I was taking Kleenex and wiping it on my tonsils. You weren't supposed to do that. But other than that, I did pretty good.
Okay, let me switch topics here. Stop this section.